Welcome to the Lifescript Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sonu. The Lifescript Podcast is on a mission to uncover what health truly means and give insight into my unique, evidence-based health philosophy I call your Lifescript. The Lifescript Podcast aims to empower you with thought-provoking discussions with leading medical professionals and wellness experts and how it ties into your Lifescript. Together, we discuss the rapid rise of chronic diseases and mental health conditions and how our lifestyle, our emotional health, and the core medicine all intertwines to give you the best health for life. Please be aware that this podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or provide individualized medical advice for any health conditions. If you're seeking tailored support, you can explore more on my website, drsonu.com.au. That's drsonu.com.au. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, this is the Lifescript Podcast. Welcome to another episode. And today I'm delighted to have a conversation with our very own local women's health physio, Marina Melinkoff.
Hi.
Hi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Look, it was such a pleasure to see you the other day, and you treated my back, and but we've had mutual patients for a long time, and and your work is very much into women's physio, women's health. So tell me a bit about what is it you do day in, day out, and you do so well.
Well, I do women's health and both general physio as well, but I really enjoy the women's health component of it. So to make it simple, I sort of break it up into a few different categories. So I do the pre and post-natal treatment, the bladder and bowel incontinence or management of that, pelvic pain, and prolapse management. So to make it a little bit more simple and tie it up into a little ball.
So what aspects of that, Marina, do you think that we want to get out there to women so that they can, know more about what is involved, what help is out there, what are the myths? So let's go straight into that.
Well, there's a lot of help out there, and I think a lot of the time, particularly with women who have pelvic pain, they're not aware of it. So they've seen a lot of clinicians before they come and see me, and usually I would think that GPs and myself would be the first point of contact rather than going and seeing high-level specialists first. And then we can direct them in the directions to go and people to add on to their team. So
I couldn't agree with you more. Sometimes I see patients who've gone in a big circle before they come into my room, and I think how's that? You should come to me first. So I totally agree with you, because there's so much, inertia to even talk about some of those symptoms. And before we were chatting, before we started the recording, we were chatting about pain during intercourse, difficulty with that, low sex drive, because they just feel they're not, something's wrong with them. So a whole lot of cascade of problems start, and then with the incontinence as well, they start to avoid going out. Whole lot of mental health issues start with that, relationships. So everything becomes a big mesh of problems, and it's almost they get tangled up in that, and they get no support. And I think when they get to the wrong providers or specialists, they just don't get to the root of the problem, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. I've got a lot of ladies who'll come in and explain it as they feel like they're broken or there's something wrong with them internally and they're not sure what's going on. And I don't think it's the other clinicians that have failed them. I think it's just that's their profession and that's where they specialise. So that's why conditions like endometriosis, it's really important to have those other allied health services or clinicians helping out in the journey, because somebody needs to target their diet and gut health, somebody needs to look after their physical component, somebody needs to look after mental health component, those kind of things.
No, I completely agree with you. It has to be a multidisciplinary approach. It has to be a holistic approach. And, that's why I love the Lifescript model, because it tackles, the three tiers that we've got to get the emotional health right. So let's talk about that first. you were saying how with your work and, you know, as a physio, it's very physical, it's hands-on, but you were talking about working with their nervous system and sort of regulating it, or you know, sort of calming down, training it. So tell me a bit about that, because I think that is fascinating and I think it's so crucial.
Well, I explain it to some of my patients. It's like they've had 6 coffees or something like that, and they're just highly wound up, and you can usually see it. They'll be sitting really upright and their eyes are almost popping out of their head, and they're the ones who are in a fair bit of pain. And it's just because they're in like this fight or flight, like protective mode all the time, because they've always got pain in their body, so their body's trying to like fight that and trying to help and fix it, but it's sort of doing the opposite. So usually the first point of our treatment is teaching them how to do lots of down training. So as simple as doing like a child pose stretch and doing some deep breathing. I teach them to go for gentle walks, or start to bring meditation into their routine and just sort of switch off. Stop watching TV before they go to bed, those kind of things. So just to sort of help get that routine into having some on-off time and letting their whole nervous system settle down, and then their pain cycles can kind of have a bit of a break, and then the way that whole works. So
and I think that's why we have so many happy mutual patients, because we're on the same page. And you know, I totally agree with you. And some of these very simple suggestions can be so life-changing for these women, because one, they feel heard, they feel validated, they know that someone's actually seeing the pain they're in and how debilitating it is for them. Because some of these women can outwardly look normal, or you know, they don't have a limp, or they don't have, you know, injury as such, but it's very much what they're suffering. So I think that validation, acknowledgement, just even giving them that first starting point to, you know, is so very important. So how long do you think that process, do you see very quick response to, I guess they feel relieved when they're in your room that you've even acknowledged the difficulty they're facing?
Often the pelvic pain treatments, the first session will go for a really long time. So sometimes I'm finding that I'm in the room with them for like an hour and a half some days. And it's because I'm listening to their story most of the time. So pelvic pain is, a lot of the time it's just conversation. I don't even do our treatment in the first session sometimes, depending on what they're coming in with. So it's just letting them talk and letting them be heard, and then we kind of break it down to see what the most important part is for me to start treating first, and then we slowly tack away at it. So it really depends how long they've been going through it, or how open they are to having that chat with me in the first session.
And would you agree that no matter how long they've been in it or how severe it is, there's hope? You know, I always say
100%. Yes, I've actually, my favourite at the moment, she's been in pain for over 10 years since she had an early hysterectomy, and she's now having sex without pain, and it's been 10 years. So it can definitely happen.
Absolutely, and what an incredible, you know, journey and fulfillment that we feel as clinicians when we can change that functionality of people's lives and what it means to them.
It takes a lot of burden off them, and they feel like they're doing something wrong in the relationship, and it's not the case. So.
And talking about sexual health, it is something that I find, even as GPs, we have long-term relationships with our patients. They're meant to have rapport with us. Even then, I find that they hesitate to talk about their sex lives and the difficulties they're having. Do you find the same? And what can we do to kind of unmystify this for women and have them come to us? Like, you know, we started the conversation saying they don't get to us, I guess, in time.
I think getting the information out there, so things like this podcast or Instagram have started to really take off, where people are seeing that the information's there. A lot of the time with my ladies, I really have to poke around, I guess, with my questioning to make sure that they know that that's what I'm sort of asking with them. Sometimes they won't come in letting me know straight away that that's what they're coming in for. But the information side of things is really big. So with Instagram, like, I've got a lot of girls who will message me and say like, oh, this is what I'm feeling with a post that I've done recently. Is this what's going on with me? Like, I didn't know that these are the symptoms and this is the diagnosis, or that there's something I can do.
Yeah,
So,
and I think you're very right. The correct information, and one of my motivating factors for the podcast and the Lifescript model is that we as clinicians can bring those topics into the front line, into the limelight, where we can tell our patients that the story is important, their story is important.
Yeah.
Pain is more than just a physical symptom. It's very much interconnected, like you said, to our nervous system and everything. I had a patient who told me every time I put the bin out, my pain gets worse, and so somehow the neural pathways are connected to that process. So and I think that's really important. So the emotional part, like we said, is the top tier, of my view as well. The whole, the hope, the purpose, and all of that, and just deregulation. Talk to me more about, because the pelvic area, been to Ayurveda and yoga and all the chakras, and then I relate that to what we study in mainstream medicine and physio schools, or perhaps medical schools, and to me it all makes sense now. It's all talking about the same thing. We've got the pelvic anatomy of a woman. It's linked to the bladder in the front, the bowel in the back, the uterus in the middle, and it's all interconnected, isn't it? So
it is.
Talk to me more about how do you see that, and what messages can we give to women? How one thing links to the other, and how a real orchestrated, treatment can help with everything.
Well, it's actually so funny that you say that. So when I was at my pelvic pain course a while ago, I remember them saying that ladies who have chronic jaw pain or grind their teeth at night, most of the time they have overactive or pelvic pain as well, because of how connected everything is with the nervous system. But there's a lot that they need to get involved with in terms of the physio side of things, and the GPs, and seeing other clinicians as well. But in the aspect of what we can treat, it's more we kind of take from the ground up approach. So we'll look at their posture, their stance, how they're holding themselves. So when you've got a really poor posture, it's going to pull on different ligaments and muscles, and it doesn't hold itself well. And if one thing's overcompensating and the other thing's not doing its job properly, it kind of goes like a snowball effect, I guess. So a lot of people, and it's really common with ladies, they'll stand in an anterior pelvic tilt where their bum's kind of pushed out the back, and they sort of hang on their hamstring ligaments, and that can go into the pelvic floor where it's pulling from the coccyx and can give coccydynia or tailbone pain. And it's with pelvic pain as well, they kind of lose that sense of body awareness. So I usually find that they really hate doing things like a cat-cow. Just their body just doesn't know what's going on, they can't coordinate it, and it's painful. And it's just because everything is so switched on and in so much spasm that we really need to just start from the ground up and start fixing their posture and the way the muscles coordinate before we actually start treating anything internally. So you've really got to start at a broad picture with everything on top of the other.
So a gentle approach, desensitize them, listen to them, and then start with the basics of how we physically hold our body, what the anatomy is, and slowly work them, to a point where we can help them get
pretty much, working on education, strengthening, pretty much everything with all of it.
So how long do you anticipate this treatment may take? What are the factors that really enhance the chances of success? What are the barriers? Just talk me through that.
That's a how long is a piece of string question, really. So it really depends on what barriers they've got going on with them at the moment, how many components there are to treatment. Are they coming in with just vulvodynia, or do they have endometriosis that's causing vaginismus and spasm? Do they have any mental health components? I usually find that the mental health and the diet are huge barriers, and until we can treat and help them along with that, it's really tricky for me to do my job properly.
So we work well in the team.
Pretty much, yes. If they're not seeing you, I'm sending them straight across the street to see Sonu.
And likewise. So, I think this is a very, very important point. And like you mentioned, gut health is so important. And And I always find now almost 100% of my patients with mental health issues will have gut issues. Women with hormonal issues will have gut issues, and vice versa, because our body is so finely interconnected. And the reverse is true as well. You fix the gut, your hormones, your pain, everything gets better. So we just finished recording a big shoot for our Lifescript food philosophy, because I think that's a big part of it. So with regards to gut health, do you see physical therapy also improving there? Do you work on that piece of continence and strengthening and,
Yeah, I more work on making sure that they've got healthy bowel movements and toilet habits. So going from how regularly they're going, are they holding for a long time? Are they consistent in the morning, or are they sort of rushing off to work? Those kind of things. And then we talk about consistency. So that's very heavy diet related, and I can help give some tips on how to make things a little bit more consistent. Or if it's an IBS picture, I definitely get them in to see the doctor.
And do you find that poor patients are just overloaded with information and myths and wrong information, and you just want to just say, okay, put all that in the bin, let's start from scratch?
Yes, as much
simplify.
As much as I love social media, it's also really bad on the other side of things because of all the misinformation that kind of goes out, and people take it as that's what they should be doing. So
and I think what happens, and I agree with you, is that the information becomes so burdensome that they feel like they can't process it, it's too complicated, they can't possibly work it out. And it's either too unavailable, too expensive, or too they can't do it. So it's disempowering. How do you empower your patients? What are your favorite things to say?
I don't know if I've got favourite things to say, but I like creating little goals for patients. So I don't talk about the big picture ever, particularly in the first session. It's just too hard and scary. I usually like to make little goals. So by the time they see me the second and third session, they've already met some of them, and then they feel empowered and they feel excited. And giving them only a few things to go home with, because there's only so much you can remember in a couple of sessions.
Libby Weaver is one of my very favorite authors, and she's written a book called The Rushing Woman Syndrome. And she says the perception that we've got to do so much and rush all the time and have a to-do list to the floor. And he says never put more than 3 things on your to-do list. And I really like that, because we all thrive on achieving rather than failing. So I think such a core part of human women mentality, I guess, and I think you're spot on. I couldn't agree more with you. They're just achievable small goals, so they feel that they're getting there, that hope is there. And the same thing I talk about with diet and gut as well. Think about what you're going to put in to nourish you rather than what you're going to take out. Can't do this, can't eat that, can't do this, can't do that, can never drink, can never but what you're going to eat to actually put that fiber in, the good nutrition in, so that your bowels can work, you can empty your bowels properly, so you're not loaded, your bowels are not sort of pushing on your pelvis, and everything's working better. And again, and let's talk about the hard stuff. Do you find addiction and abuse of painkillers, alcohol, sleep?
Really tricky. It's like a snowball effect with the pain medication, or just those quick fixes, and it all rolls into like their sleep pattern, their daily habits. And we've got a few mutual patients, and I think you'll know like the particular ones, but you can literally see it when they walk in. You're like, you're not sleeping at all, and you can tell that they're so highly wound, and it's really, really tricky to kick. So especially the long-term use of opioids and the really heavy pain meds, or even anti-inflammatories that people just take for weeks and weeks.
And they create pain, isn't it? Not every painkiller can make you have pain, and when I say that to people, if you're still in pain, just don't take them, because you're still in pain. It's not working. And sleep, it's part of my Lifescript wheel, because it's so important, the nutrition and sleep, and without sleep nothing reboots. It's like a computer that freezes. You just don't reboot. So do you give them any exercises that they can do before sleep, and do you have a routine they can follow?
I don't give
playing?
anything specific, but I definitely touch on their sleep health to start off with. If you're in pain and you're not sleeping well, there's no point focusing on anything else, because if you're not sleeping, your body's not recovering.
Yeah.
So we'll go over what their routine is before they go to bed. So say, for example, if they're up all night going to the toilet, what are they drinking or eating before they go to sleep? Do we need to change that routine a little bit? Are they watching action movies before they go to bed and their mind's like overstimulated because they're watching something horrific before they go to sleep?
Yeah.
So I'll start with little things like calm stretching, so like pelvic opening stretches. So child pose again is a great one I always go to, just very slow yoga style stretches, deep breathing, belly breaths is sort of what I term it as. So more of that diaphragmatic breathing to let the whole body relax, and it helps relax the pelvic floor at the same time.
Yeah.
If they really struggle with switching off, I go through different like counting techniques. So like if you've ever been free diving and they teach you how to take really slow breaths to calm your nervous system down.
I'm not that brave, but next lifetime.
Yeah, so that they've got great breathing techniques where you take a breath in and say you count to 5 seconds and then take 10 seconds to breathe out. So it helps things slow down really quickly. And then they're focusing on counting. So little things like that to try and help them switch off and go to sleep.
And caffeine is a big thing as well.
Yeah.
People don't realise, like sugar, how many things have caffeine in it.
Yeah,
you know?
even tea. They're like, I have green tea before I go to bed, and don't realise how much caffeine's in green tea.
Yeah, I think we're speaking from the same page, aren't we?
Yeah.
So, I know it's incredible that people will drink anything but water.
Yeah.
And I think, no, drink only water.
It's good for you.
Yeah, it's good for you. It's the best drink. Yeah, it's simple things. And, there are some days where I think I've only told them to eat fiber, drink water, sleep on time, switch off their phones, and, simple stuff. But when put together, as we know, it makes all the difference. Really well. Another thing, Marina, while I have you here, I want to talk about is, again, I think the modern world, the social media, the very vain world we live in, so it's hard. I just feel like, oh my God, if I was a pregnant woman today, it would be so hard because, my kids are grown up now, and it would be so difficult to keep up with what's the latest and what's the latest trends and I mean, again, I think it's very hard for women. I find that I'm telling my pregnant women and, post-natal women in the first week, 6 weeks, you don't need to go out to cafes. This is a confinement period. There was a reason why that was created. Not that you need to follow those strict rules of the past, but there's a reason why, you've got to...
The 6 weeks.
The 6 weeks and taking care of you, getting rid of the noises around you, really homing into your inner circle, not going on your social media while you're breastfeeding and maybe listening to Mozart or something.
Yeah.
Maybe I go a bit too much that way, but tell me, you must see that as well, and the prolapses and the injuries we see in women who've gone back to strenuous, dangerous exercises very quick in the attempt to get back their pre-birth bodies, and and it really distresses me because I think that somewhere we're not strong enough to give messages to our patients to just
rest,
to allow them to rest and explain to them the physiology, the anatomy, the natural process of a human body. And I think that's why I said, tell me a bit more about that. Like, what do you see, and what messages can you give so that women don't end up with injuries and, unnecessary trauma that they can avoid?
Well, Women's Health Physio has a bigger role, and we're trying to step into it a little bit more without crossing any boundaries or going into an area that's not really our job, pretty much. But we can help out a lot pre-labour and in that antenatal phase in helping a woman who either wants to have a C-section or wants to deliver, and we kind of get them ready for what to expect.
Yeah.
So it's not so scary and rushed afterwards.
Yeah.
So for
education, prevention.
All my sessions, I'm literally just talking to people. I'm not doing anything hands-on. It's just a conversation. I'm educating them. I'm teaching them how to do things. Probably my biggest bit of advice is just rest. Literally for 2 weeks, I want them laying down, just be horizontal, let your body sort of recover, enjoy your new baby, get the sleep that you need, because you're probably not going to get very much.
Yeah.
So, and teaching them different positions that they can feed whilst they're resting, so they're not having to actually physically hold their baby. Yeah. So lots of pillows for support. They can breastfeed laying on their side, laying on their back, and teaching them all these things so they can get some downtime for themselves.
And do you think these common knowledge things are not really common?
No, it's not. To be honest, before I did all of my studies, I had no idea about half of it. It's like the more I learned, the more I realised I didn't know. Yeah. And
I could totally relate to that too.
It just opens up a whole new can of worms. But a lot of the women come in and they're like, what can I do when I have a baby? Can I start my pelvic floor exercises? Should I start running? And all of these really extreme things that I really don't even want to talk to them about until 6 or 12 weeks postpartum. So getting them in beforehand usually helps. Yeah,
I find this fascinating that even, like you said, professional women or educated women, or even in our health industry, we don't know about these things. And I couldn't agree more with you. The more I learned, the more I realized that I didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think that is the passion about, reaching out to a bigger audience and telling our patients that, one, we're here to listen, the stories are important, how your mind works, what impact it has, the emotional health is a big component, what we do to ourselves, our diet, our movement, and like you said, I sometimes feel the same. I haven't even done anything, I've prescribed a pill, I've talked all day. But I think that we both agree that has the biggest impact, and just giving them the permission, I guess, to rest and be themselves. Do you treat a lot of premenstrual dysphoric disorders, or women who get a lot of symptoms premenstrually, or they have pain or painful periods? And
I do. I don't treat much of the younger populations. I think my youngest patients is 17, but I do treat lots of period pain type situations, or painful menstruation. It's heavily involved with you guys, so I will help them with pain tactics, like using a TENS machine, for example, instead of opting for pain medication, because the TENS machine works really
non-invasive.
Non-invasive, very conservative. I'll teach them on different forms of exercise that they can do whilst they're on their period or coming into that painful stage, that will help alleviate any muscle tension, and then teaching them again good sleep habits. Good toilet habits usually goes out the window when they're coming into their menstrual cycle, so helping them get through that as well, because that's going to flare up their pain even more if they don't have great toilet habits. And then making sure that they've got a good women's health GP on the team, pretty much.
Yeah, I had a patient recently who said, "Sonny, you've changed my life because you've just allowed me to rest before my period, and now I look forward to my period, and I don't go to my 2 body pump classes 2 days before I bleed." And, and it's life-changing for these women, just knowing what their hormones are doing, or what their biological cycle is doing, and giving them permission to flow with it rather than resist it and do something that's out of keeping with how our bodies are and respond. And their cortisol levels go down, they feel rested, they feel better, and they suddenly think, wow, this is, and I haven't even taken a pill or done an operation, or Coming to that, do you feel that the invasive procedures, I see so many women now who are having treatments for endometriosis. I know this may be a politically incorrect question, but do you find that a lot of women have had invasive procedures these days that may have been avoided?
Yeah, I think so. I really like Sean Holland in Pindara. His approach to the way that they treat endometriosis is very much what if it was me who was going through something like that, I'd really like that kind of approach. And he really avoids surgery until it's absolutely necessary, because it grows back. Once the endometriosis is removed or they cut it out, it does grow back. And I think a lot of ladies don't understand that. I've had a lot of women who have come back to see me who say oh, well, it's been cut out, it's gone. Well, that's not the case. It's something we've got to manage. And the more they go in, the more scar tissue they create. Your body's going into more of that fight and flight response. They're fighting to recover after surgery. It's a big procedure. If we could avoid it doing down training techniques if they do need to go on hormonal contraception and have their pain managed that way, or if we do need to change their form of exercise or their diet or mental health components. I feel like that's a much better route than having surgery over and over again.
Yeah, I'm glad you agree with me, because I think, is it just me or all these women are getting so many invasive procedures? And I agree. I mean, sometimes it is necessary, but again, that needs to be combined with a holistic approach to control the disease, the process itself, rather than just a one-off treatment. And I think education is exactly the same page. Anything else, Marina, that you would like to share with my audience as to what would be your key, if there's 3 things you would want to say to every woman out there? What would you say?
Probably get back to the basics. Stop going for the most expensive, most significant treatment out there, and start at the bottom level, because that's usually where the things work a lot of the time, like 95% of the time.
Simple.
Simple. Keep it simple. Good sleep health, and make sure that they've got some time to themselves is probably the big thing, because that's a lot of the
rest.
Yeah, rest. It's usually the first thing I'm telling people to go home with.
I always say rest with a capital REST.
Exactly.
And what would be the 3rd thing you would say?
A healthy diet I'm pretty pro for.
Come see you.
Yeah, come see me. That's obvious.
Yeah. No, I'm so grateful for your time. I think we're very aligned clinicians. We work together. We know we speak the same thing, and it is very, very important, I think, in the modern world, where in spite of all the abundance, all the treatments, all the technology, all the tests, all the pills, there's so many women who are suffering from pain. They're not being heard. They're not getting that holistic approach, and there is help out there, and there is clinicians like yourself, myself, and lots of others, and just keeping it simple and basic, and
starting from scratch.
And there is hope, and we can get them back to where they need to be.
There's always help out there, so
perfect. Thank you so much, and congratulations on winning the Spartan race and bringing the trophy back to our local
where it needs to be.
Congratulations. And I think, closing on that, I'm passionate about us as clinicians leading by example, and not just preaching in our rooms, but trying to imbibe that same philosophy. And I think, do you find that's very inspiring for your clients?
Yes, definitely. You can't explain to a patient how to do something if you're not doing it yourself. So you need to practice what you preach.
And that improves your brand power.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I've learned that the hard way, but I totally agree with you. I think when they feel inspired and they feel like, you walk the walk and talk the talk, then they're definitely more on board with what you're saying. So let's keep ourselves healthy, and let's get our patients healthy, and let's get out to all the women to say that, look, you're not alone. We'll get you to understand what's going on and give you a stepwise process to get better.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Marina. It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
And let's
Thanks
keep
for having me.
treating the whole Gold Coast.
Yes, one girl at a time. We'll get there.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lifescript podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. The show notes and any resources mentioned can be found in the accompanying blog post on my website. Please remember that the information provided in this podcast is not intended to diagnose or provide medical advice for any health conditions. If you're looking for individualized support, please head over to my website, drsonu.com.au. That's drsonu.com.au to learn more about how Kirin Wellness and its programs can help you on your health and healing journey.